individuals who started this group. And I'm going to name them because it's important. It consists of Dave Tydinko, Monty Mesa, Jay Merrill, Eddie Regis, Adam Tydinko, Bill Nault, Brad Kloppenberg, Joanne Camacho, Vince Munoz, and Steve Reuter. And some of them are fellow Rotarians. It was this group who called on us at the University of Guam and members of the Guam Visitors Bureau Board of Directors to join them on this quest to come up with a plan to reopen Guam safely. And we recognized that this would be a long-term recovery in relation to the devastating impact brought on by the coronavirus pandemic. The group's efforts extended into a complementary hub that would serve as the nexus for public-private partnership, talent resource synergy, and community engagement. This was an organic, community-driven effort that was born out of a sincere desire to help the people of Guam and the region. Our group was committed to assuring that our island community, that in the midst of these new environmental conditions, it was working tirelessly to instill in our residents and visitors the confidence that their safety and well-being are foremost in our efforts. So together, in a comprehensive community partnership, we established this group. And here's what we were able to accomplish over a series of early Friday morning meetings, driven by our authentic commitment to arrive at a prioritized recovery plan for Guam, which we finalized early this past summer. So this resulted in 4 primary outcomes. One was the development of a Guam recovery website, the design of a Guam Safe Certificate program, to collaborate with global partners in the development of a tourism app, and to launch a source market research study looking at resident, visitor, and business consumer attitudes and behaviors. So these initiatives required funding support. And here's what we did. We applied for the technical assistance grant through the Office of Insular Affairs under the Department of Interior. And what we did was we submitted initially for the regular TAP grant, if you're familiar with that. We were notified that there was another funding source and that we should apply to that instead. So we were directed to the CARES TAP funding as part of the Guam Recovery Initiative, which we later found out after submitting our packet that we were not eligible for. So our project was not deemed relevant to the preparation, prevention, and response to COVID-19, and these funds could not be used for recovery projects, such as the ones that we are pursuing. On July 31st, we gave a presentation to Governor Leon Guerrero, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio, and their economic recovery team. We were informed at that meeting that there is funding available, and we were invited to submit our proposal to the governor. As of today, we've not received any commitments, and so we're still looking at pursuing that opportunity with a given deadline. At this point, we're exploring other funding options, so we're continuing to look through grants that come about and are open to recommendations or offers to continue supporting this, these 4 initiatives that we will describe to you in just a bit. So this is a concerning picture as the impacts to our business and industry conditions continue to deepen and worsen. We are committed to working together towards supporting Guam's recovery efforts and working within our means to move forward. To give you an overview of the 4 initiatives, I will turn your attention to Dave Tydinko, who will talk about the GuamRecovery.com portal. And from there, we will segue into the other elements of our initiatives to be presented by other members of the panel. And so Dave, I turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Dina, and half a day, everybody. Thanks for allowing us to come and be with you today. Let me first begin with our effort is a PPP effort. It's the Public-Private Pandemic Response, the PPPR. And we didn't come together as a group to find all solutions, but rather be a group that would fill voids that we saw existed with respect to the recovery efforts and align them with the current recovery task force that have been developed both at the government level as well as our private industry nonprofits like the Chamber, the Guam Visitors Bureau, the Guam Hotel Restaurant Association, and so forth. But the first thing we saw as a group was that there was an overwhelming amount of information coming out on COVID, both locally and globally, and it was all over the place. You had to go through 30, 40 different websites to figure out what was going on with a specific subject. So next slide, please. So we all decided that we were going to collaborate and get this information and try to organize it in a method that would be easy to navigate and make it available to all. I thank my son, Adam Tidinko, who's on the call, who lives in San Diego, who does this type of work for a living, and he's donated his time to be able to stand up this particular website. And again, the landing page talks about our mission, and it's really a partnership with the University of Guam School of Business and Public Administration and private sector businesses that are interested in trying to find solutions when things do open up. You know, we don't profess to have expertise in the medical field, but a lot of us are small businesses that are trying to survive under what we call this new normal. And it's difficult, but it's even more difficult because there's so much information out there that's available. We developed the site so that it would be easy to navigate. It was designed for not just employers and employees, but our residents, our travelers in particular, who've come to the site to find out what's going on every single day with respect to Guam. Next slide, please. So if you go to guamrecovery.com, you'll see a subject matter that may be of interest to you, whether it's GovGuam reopening guidelines or the executive orders or news updates, information on how small businesses can be helped, or employee related information, CDC cleaning guidelines. So again, there's a ton of information out there, and we thought that by standing up a single portal that would allow people to go to, they would find subject matter that would be of interest or relevant to what they're looking for. And I've had a few friends whose attorneys now use it as a source of information for making decisions about what they can legally or not legally do. Again, it's a site that contains everything under the sun, from local as well as global information that basically is relevant to our effort to figure out what's going on with COVID. Next slide, please. So over the last, it went live in May, and Adam did a wonderful job of putting it together in like a couple of weeks, and it's constantly updated every day. And so this slide just basically gives you an idea of the number of people who've found it useful and are using it as of today. Over 35,480 page views, 72,000 impressions, just through an organic build by sharing it with the community. United.com has posted it on their website, and so we've got many travelers actually seeking information on the website and sending questions that we try to answer as best as possible. Officeholidays.com, uog.edu is also sharing it on their websites, and basically the governor's office as well, and all the releases that are put out by the Joint Information Center has this at the very bottom as a source of information that people can rely on to find out what's going on with COVID today, whether it's a government initiative, a private sector initiative, or what's happening as well with our local businesses. We've also used it as a platform for when we were in PCOR 2, PCOR 3 with restaurants now opening. We've allowed it as a platform for people to send their information about their openings, and then we publish it through the digital platforms using obviously our website, but Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and so we're just trying to help provide a platform where information is available, but also we can share information about various businesses that are opening and what their status is. So we continue to do this every day. Adam lives in San Diego, so it's nice because at night when stuff happens, first thing in the morning, it's published and updated. And essentially, we continue to do this, and we do this as a volunteer on a voluntary basis because we think it's important that there's accurate, relevant information in the community that's being shared, so that we can make some good decisions about what we can do or what we can't do. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Jay to talk about his efforts with research work that is being done as part of this initiative.
Thanks, Dave. One of the commitments that the group made from the very beginning was that any of the projects and activities that we engage in would be evidence-based. And so I have been working in collaboration with Roseanne at the university and in my private research organization to generate information on a lot of different other types of projects. The most recent before was on the minimum wage study, but what we were interested in doing is making sure that as the recovery program progressed, that there was an understanding of its measurable impact on the business community and on residents. And so the objective was to set up a research protocol that would first measure just how COVID has affected the island in a way that can help educate the development of policy, and also can at the same time provide a gauge of both the level of recovery and how quickly it is occurring. And at the same time, we felt it was important to establish a means of understanding how our source markets were going to be able to rebound once travel became possible. And so we developed a research design that incorporates all of these various elements together, including this assessment of residential attitudes and behavior, so that we can know what the impact of not only changing work habits have been, but also the impact of the new school arrangements have been, not to mention the impact of the loss of income that has occurred in the community, so we can measure the effect that that's had on things like, well, the nature of the household, whether it has gotten smaller, whether it has gotten larger, whether people are moving away, and how they're coping with all the various changes to their lifestyle that have occurred in forms of entertainment and other types of activities that now had to be curtailed because of COVID. At the same time, we wanted to do something similar for businesses, and to do that, we are going to conduct a survey of all businesses utilizing the business license database at Rev and Tax to provide a comprehensive sample of the entire business community, both those in the industry, the tourism industry, and also those in all other industries, so that we can get a representative sampling of what the actual impact has been. And it's not going to be the same across industries. So we piloted the survey both in the visitor industry and in the local community, and there are differences in terms of how the impact has occurred. And our objective is to create a large enough sample so we can make this information public and provide it to business owners as well as the government, so that they can begin to understand the best ways that local businesses feel would be to help them get reestablished. And at the same time, the information collected in Korea, Japan, and Taiwan would be in collaboration also with the Guam Visitors Bureau, and it would be used to not only educate the source marketing activities, but also to provide information locally in terms of the changes that COVID has created among Korean, Japanese, and Taiwan visitors, and their expectations of what to expect when they come, what they expect when they come to Guam, and the types of things that businesses can do to attract them back to their establishment. And then finally, what we're doing is we've gotten permission from the Guam Department of Labor to begin analyzing the information that's collected by the Guam unemployment insurance process. The PUA grant allowed people to obtain, obviously, the advances, but they had to provide a lot of important personal information. And in aggregate, what we will be doing for the Department of Labor is looking at what that says about the unemployed, what it says about the workforce in general, so that we can begin to get as much of an impact assessment on employees as we will on businesses. And all of this information is intended to be made public and to be provided through the website so that researchers and at the same time businesses and consumers can take a look at this information and help inform them about not only the impact of COVID overall, but also provide a means of better understanding how they might be able to address some of the concerns and some of the impacts that it's created. Process is underway. We need funding to go to the next level, but both Roseanne Jones and myself have donated the work and requirements for the pilots, and we're so ready to get going as soon as we can get the funding that's needed. And that's basically it. So I guess with this, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Rivera, who's going to be talking about how some of this information is going to be able to be applied in a real way to help businesses.
Hafidi, fellow Rotarians. And so a third part of this component had to do with the Guam Visitors Bureau and some of the collaborations that were there. We wouldn't be a university if we didn't engage the students and start to make social-based impacts and learning practical for some of the applications in the courtroom. And so back in May, we got the Masters of Business, the professional MBA involved, and we had some initial meetings with GVB during the first lockdown. And we started to talk about some of the things moving forward that we needed to do or we could do and to try to get Guam back on track, especially with regard to our tourists and our local markets. And so two things that came out of that were a learning platform, which is an icon that you see on the left on the bottom, and then the Guam Safe Certified. And both of these efforts are underway and none have officially launched yet, but you're getting a preview as to what's hopefully coming very soon. And so first, the idea actually came from Bill Knott, and he was talking about this idea that the tourism markets, especially those close to us, were starting early on during the lockdown, the first iterations of the lockdown, to engage the public in a very educational and fun way. Japan markets were doing this, reaching out to children and prospective tourists across the world, basically to remind them that they existed. And so Bill's idea was, you know, what can Guam do in this realm? And so we engaged the PMBA, and with GVB, we came up with a learning platform, and right now it's called Coco Learning. And this idea is an interactive platform that starts to get, and it's not only used for children, it can be used also for adults and as an adventure opportunity for tourists and even locals as they come. So right now you're seeing draft images of the app form. When you get started, what it would do is then take you into different routes. So you have adventure, you have history, you have culture, you have art, music, even food and entertainment, and things of that nature will be thematic. We are working with Guampedia to authenticate the information and ensure that the historical value of this is in tune. And so the demo mock-up you see is, for example, the story of Punta dos Amantes, right? Two Lovers Point. And so people can engage in fun and interactive type of activities. And we're trying to also put into play types of experiences where you not only learn about it, but when you come to Guam, hopefully, or you do some sort of adventure with Guam, then you actually go to these sites, right? So you go to these sites, you get extra points. And then there's a point system attached to this learning platform that you can redeem with Shop Guam and some other places and vendors throughout the island. So it's an interactive thing that's, like I said, not only for international markets and tourists, but also for the locals, right? For preservation of history, culture, and all things Guam. And so these is one example. The other example that we're working on, and a project we're working on, again, which hasn't launched and is still in its formative states, is what we like to call Guam Safe Certified. So as businesses in this pandemic start to open and close again and reopen because of people testing positive and quarantine efforts, Guam Visitors Bureau early on was looking at what is a branding or certificate program that we could probably put on the table that assures not only the tourists that come to Guam, but also our locals, and give them the confidence that businesses are doing what they're supposed to. And that businesses that have these logos are adhering to a standard of safety and best business practices in this new norm. And so there's this WTTC certificate, the World Travel and Tourism Council, that has already launched a global certificate called Safe Travel. And the Guam Visitors Bureau, since then, just about a month ago, received the stamping approval for this designation. And so we're working with the Guam Visitors Bureau, Public Health upcoming, and a few other partners in the beginning. And what we hope to do is put forth some sort of business protocol that allows people to feel the confidence and experience and know that when these businesses are affected by COVID, either through the people coming through the doors or employees testing positive, that they've adhered to a real strict standard of protocols with regard to safety first. And that when they open and they flash these badges, it tells the visitors and the public that this is the protocol and standard that they went through. And these are the things that you can be assured of these businesses and the things that they're doing to keep everybody safe. And so the hope of GVB through these efforts is to get the whole island certified. So once we open our doors back and we start to really get the public engaged in interaction locally, and then we start to get the travel community back on board, that there's a sense of assurance to all of these sources that we are doing the best we can, and hopefully to Guam brand Guam as one of the safest destinations when we come out of this around the bend. And so these two are hoping to see the light of fruition probably around the November date. We'll be piloting some tests early on and start to launch this hopefully towards the end of November, around that time frame. And these are two projects that are being actively worked on by our partnerships. And then I'll turn it over to Eddie, who will talk about our travel app.
Sorry, next slide, please. As you're aware, back on September 10th, Public Health locally launched a digital contact tracing app known as the COVID Alert, the Guam COVID Alert app. Especially with the increase of COVID positive infections, it was necessary to use technology as a vehicle to help with the contact tracing. The government is hoping to obtain a download rate of about 60% of local smartphone users to achieve the maximum benefit of digital contact tracing to help slow down the COVID positive infection rate. One of the things that this group has been looking at in working with GVB is how do we, with the the Guam COVID Alert app, it was primarily launched locally. So what the next step essentially is to address the all inbound visitors. So GVB and other key stakeholders have expressed an interest for the travel app for all inbound visitors, which would deliver a seamless and touchless experience. And the intent is to have the digital contact tracing component as a basic feature of the travel app. The intent is to work with a user group to incorporate key elements of a travel app, such as what Dr. Rivera just spoke to as far as what his cohort is doing at the University of Guam. And of course, this has to be done in coordination with the Guam Visitors Bureau, the airport, customs and quarantine, public health, and other key stakeholders, which is essentially paramount. Next slide. So the goal of the travel app is essentially to ensure that we eventually promote Guam as a safe destination, and the intent is to incorporate the smart tools that will help businesses in providing a safe environment, and also to reassure visitors that safe practices are in place for a positive experience. And with the significant reduction of inbound visitors right now, we are working on a travel app concept that can be implemented sooner than later. So really now is the time to, put something out there so that we can start testing it. And we hope that this will eventually, project will eventually start soon. And in order to give you kind of like an idea of a travel app concept, we have a video that we'd like to play for you right now. Thank you.
Introducing the future of safe, fun, and easy traveling with Travel Guam. If you decide to travel to Guam and book online or with a travel agent, you'll be prompted to download the app or register online. Choose your language, create your profile, complete your customs forms and quick feedback surveys anytime before your arrival. A unique QR code will be generated in preparation for your arrival to the island. Enjoy a touchless digital experience upon arrival by easily scanning your QR code at the designated kiosk in the terminal. If you don't have a phone or computer, easily rent one at the airport and upon arrival, download the app, create your profile, fill out the forms, and submit. During your stay, enjoy quick hotel services for anything you need. Have fun at shopping centers and try suggested restaurants based on what we know you'll love with the help of the profile you created. Explore amazing spots on Guam that we know you'll want to take selfies at and share your story. Do all this while running safety COVID checks at every establishment, which will ensure that you and those around you with the app are safe to be around. If anyone ever reports positive in the following days, exposure notifications will be sent to users who've crossed similar paths through Google, Apple exposure notification, or GAIN technology. GAIN uses random Bluetooth key exchanges, so data is never exchanged and your privacy is always protected. When it's time to depart, you can keep Travel Guam installed to receive updates for any safety checks even after you leave. If you're returning a rental device at departure, you can always check for updates online. As more travelers like you download the app, trends, statistics, and characteristics that appeal to each traveler will help us help you get everything you want and need with one click. Safe, fun, easy. Travel Guam. For more information, visit travelguam.com.
Back to you, John.
Actually, back to the Dean.
All right, well, there you have it. Those are the 4 initiatives. A quick overview of what they entail. And then just a reminder that, we all care about this island. And this community has a special place in all of our hearts. It's what we call home. And there's a lot of call to actions. And in this regard, what can you do? It's very prescriptive. 1, refer others to the GuamRecovery.com website. Take a look for yourself. See what you can find on there. We're open to suggestions of how to improve it and make it better and more meaningful for the people who need information. Participate. We need you to participate in upcoming business surveys on GuamRecovery.com and the surveys that we may be allowed to pursue as Jay presented earlier. And support the Guam COVID Alert. If you haven't loaded the app, please do so. I've activated mine and I invite you to do the same. And donate. A lot of the work that we are doing requires effort. We all have real jobs, but this is an additional task that we welcome because we want to see Guam in a better place. We want to get back to some sort of economic recovery, and little steps will get us there. So if you want to support the efforts that we've presented here, we welcome that. And the link is right here. So I encourage you to take a snapshot of this last slide and just ask for your support in this effort. And at this point now, we open up the floor for any questions that you might have, and we'll do our best to answer them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. You got the whole team with us today. Is anybody out there with questions?
Maybe I'll have a question. So this is the first I've heard of it, the GuamRecovery.com. I definitely will subscribe and I applaud the effort. The only thing with, kind of not forcing, but suggesting that tourists download an app and get tracked while they're here. Of course, the privacy is a big issue. I have downloaded the Guam app. I have it turned on. So because I looked into it, but I think it's important that you really let people know that this is not another Google or government trying to follow them around every step. So privacy, I think you need to push really hard.
I don't so much have a question as more it's a request. Can we get a copy of the slideshow so we can circulate it? Anybody?
Let me talk with the team and see what we can do to package that and get what we can out to you.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if we could start circulating it so more and more people know what's going on about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
I have a quick question. And I applaud you for collecting data. I love data. I love, just getting the numbers and understanding what's going on. But I guess my question is, and I don't know if you have the answer, but it's where does all this data go, and who's gonna look at this, and what are they gonna do about it?
Well, I think I'm sorry, Nat, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jay. I was just going to mention that the data was going to be housed at the University of Guam. The Regional Center for Public Policy will ensure the protection of the data, and the use for it, of course, will be based on whatever our institutional review board approves. So it's based on that request. But we are looking at housing all the data collected at the University of Guam.
Okay, I'm sorry, Dean. I just thought it was going to go to Gov Guam, and some agency was going to use it to better, all the numbers that you guys are collecting.
Now we all have we all understand the value and importance of data, and we need to compile and collect more of it and keep it in a place that will sustain that accessibility when needed. So the University of Guam is stepping up to make sure that we can be the repository for data, so that we can use that longitudinal data at some point to predict trends and to work in making really good decisions for the island moving forward.
Are there any other questions out there? I have a question real quick. During this whole shutdown, a lot of agencies seems to, I guess, focus on tourism. Where's the tourists, bring them back and all of that. Is there any other maybe industry that we can look at besides just putting all our money or all our eggs into tourism? Is there something that maybe now that island is shut down and people are unemployed, we can open up another industry of agriculture, sell tilapia somewhere, or shrimp, or get into processing noni, since noni juice and noni vitamins are out there? Is there another industry that we can start looking at instead of waiting a year and a half for tourism to return?
I feel like I'm taking up or hogging up all the airspace here. Did anyone on the panel want to speak? I can speak to it, but I'd like to defer to someone else if they'd like to. Anyone?
Can I just start with, yeah, absolutely. I think, again, as I said earlier in our presentation, we are a component part of a larger group that is looking at how the island can recover, right? We also have Gita participating with us, and Gita is out there trying to figure out how they can invite new industries to the island. And, particularly at the Valley of the Latte, we have the single largest aquaculture farm. One of our partners actually owns that and supplying that. So they're trying to figure out how to help. And also talking about agriculture. Telecom is obviously a business that can be expanded. But I need to also go back to, over the last 50, 60 years, we spent an enormous amount of time, effort, energy, resources to build a tourism infrastructure that we have today, and it won't go away. I think history will tell us that these pandemics have occurred, and ultimately some solution is found, whether it is within a year or 3 years or 5 years. But as we are in these lockdown modes, I think it's incumbent upon us to figure out, okay, yes, let's look at other industries, but let's not forget what is significant amount of infrastructure has been built to be able to support this island. And we talk about what component part tourism makes up in our economy. I think the numbers will be telling. Once Jay completes the survey, how much does it really contribute to the island? And you know, the other question about where's this information going to be used at, I think it's got to be, we talked about making it public for those political leaders and the policymakers and the business leaders to say, okay, these are what our people are saying, both our businesses as well as our residents, and these are the actions that we need to take in order to address these concerns, or hopefully that is how the information is going to be used.
And if I could add to that, we do have some new faculty members at the School of Business and Public Administration. They've been sharing some really neat ideas about industry diversification. One of the things, and I'm not gonna give it away yet, but we are planning some think tank sessions at the school. But if you could think about the political economy and what's happening in China, and then think about the number of American businesses that are there, and think about our location. I think there are some opportunity there to identify ways that we can attract those businesses to invest in Guam. And you know, there is a pharmaceutical company. Those are some things we might want to think about. So I just wanted to, you know, just tantalize you with that idea, but there certainly are other opportunities. We have a faculty member who's taking a look at the Bermuda economy and seeing if that could be a case study for Guam itself. So these are some conversations that we're having. You know, there's just very few of us, but if we could collaborate and partner with business owners and local residents to come together and talk about these ideas and flesh them out a little bit more, I think we'll be in a better position. But there's no doubt that tourism continues to be a sustainable economic driver for Guam, and definitely results in the creation of new jobs and new businesses for us. This is a time where we need to start pivoting and thinking about how to coexist with this pandemic and make it work for the majority of us that are willing and able to embrace this change.
I'd just like to add that the information also that we're collecting about residents and the impact in the community is going to be very valuable to our nonprofit industry. It's going to provide a lot of information to folks about how their preferences are changing, how their lifestyle is changing, and all of that is in that will be opportunities that are going to help the existing businesses morph and change to adapt to this new reality. So not only is there economic effects, something that will be made available to everyone, but also the sociological impact that COVID has had on family size, family structure, the impact on education, what is that doing in terms of people's anticipation for what they want to do in the future. All of that is going to be able to be made available to everyone through the university in this process.
I have a question regarding that. It seems that I don't hear anything that you guys are talking about in terms of anybody weighing the evidentiary value of some of these decisions being made by the government, such as locking our residents down for 2 weeks when they come in, whereas somebody that tests positive is allowed to go back to their home. We have all these great contacting methods. I don't know, is anybody studying the efficiency or whether there's any evidentiary value whatsoever of locking up residents for 2 weeks when they come back to Guam?
Well, that's a touchy one, obviously, Fred, but one of the things that I think that can be said is all of the effects of that are something that should be being measured. Its impact on households, its impact on businesses, all of that should be information that is collected so that whatever decisions are made are evidence-based. And in the lack of that, then people are making decisions based on their best guess. All we can do is create a platform for which that information can be collected, but it's going to be something that decision makers and the government is going to have to evaluate in terms of how they want to use it.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to see some of that because I think a lot of people are willing to make the sacrifices if they thought they had any rational relationship with improving our island. But just simply locking up residents in hotels for 2 weeks is as bad as the traffic harassment stops that they were doing earlier. There's no empirical data that I've seen that this is at all efficient in helping us move forward. And so I'm hoping that you guys could add a platform where people could voice their concern, or where this could be actually measured to see, is there a positive effect in locking people down for 2 weeks while we let positive testing people go home to their homes? I mean, what's the beneficial value of that decision?
Just to add real quick, Dean Santos, again, we applaud you and everybody on this panel that has come here. We love data. You guys aren't the government. You guys are just collecting the data. It's super cool. We love hearing about it. But back to you, David. The landscape of tourism is going to change completely on Guam after COVID-19. Everything is going to 100% change, in my humble opinion. And I think that we need to start thinking now about it versus later, because you know what? Businesses are going to go down, businesses are going to be created, but what is the future for tourism on Guam?
I don't argue that. I think you're right. There's going to be a new normal with new opportunities created, as well as opportunities that existed that are going to be totally lost. And again, a part of us trying to make that decision is related to being evidence-based, collecting the data to determine what we need to do to adjust our island and our economy and how we do businesses. But we need to make evidence-based decisions and not just simply rely on anecdotal responses to how people are reacting today. And I agree with you. We're part of a larger group, PATA International, and they expect that, recovery really won't happen until 2023 now. But we're also looking at being 80% or 90% of what we used to be. And so, yeah, it's going to require us to reinvent ourselves and determine ultimately what makes sense for us as an island. Go back to the earlier comment about let's look at other industries. Absolutely. We should have been looking at other industries irrespective of the pandemic, right? And that's kind of the stuff that's always going to have to be ongoing if long-term our island will be successful. I want to go back to what Fred Black said earlier. I totally agree with trying to figure out if there's a way to measure the impacts of some of these decisions. That should be done. And I think part of our gathering here today with you is to ask you what you think should be part of our effort to gather data, because that's important. If it's important to you, it's going to be important for all of us. So that way we really appreciate getting your input on what you think can improve our effort. And by the way, I got to say this again, on top of everything else, we are not the panacea or answer to every possible challenge we're faced. We are a small microcosm of a bigger solution, but we think that rather than simply just talk about it, we've demonstrated that we are doing something. And we want to continue to do this because, as Dr. Annette said earlier, this is our island. This is our place that we love. And these are all our friends on the Zoom conference call that we're having today that we live with. And we got to figure out how to get out of this. And we can't do it alone. And that's why we're kind of reaching out to folks like the Rotary and other organizations to help with this effort.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any comments? Suggestions? No. If nobody else had any other questions, I would like to thank the group that came in, and for you guys to take time out of your day, take time out of your lunch hour to come and speak to us. Also want to thank you guys for taking time out of your work, you're away from your family, and doing this kind of volunteer on your own. I really appreciate that. So yeah, thank you guys for joining us today, and speaking to us and letting us know what you're up to. And if you do have slides, or if you have a slide or something that you want us to pass around to the members, website, what app you want us to download and share with our friends and family, please do. Just go ahead and email me that and I'll pass it to our members. Thank you, Dr. Santos, Dr. Vera, Mr. J. Merrill, Eddie Regis, and Dave Tidinko. So thank you very much. And in closing, I would also like to welcome once again our 2 new members, past president and past ADG Lucy Ho, and fellow Rotarian Captain Eric Rudd. So thank you guys again.
Welcome aboard.
See you guys. See you next week.
Yeah, see you all next week. I'll keep you updated on the chat if anything pops up regarding trying to get the 5K going. Still trying to get a hold of Running Club to help us out a little bit. Once I'll pass that to you. Other than that, let's close the meeting. Goodbye, everybody, and I will see you on the group chat next week.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye. See you next week.
Bye.